Here's the hard truth most people don't want to hear. The expensive degrees and comfortable office jobs you're chasing are quietly taking your wealth away the moment everything starts falling apart. Buenos Aires, Argentina, December 2001. Two neighbors lived on the same block. One was a university professor who had spent 12 years earning his PhD in economics and taught at a top university. The other was a local car mechanic who learned to fix engines at age 15 from his older brother in a small garage. That month, after the country defaulted on $93 billion and the banks froze all accounts, the professor was standing in long lines trying to trade his last savings for basic food. The mechanic was working long hours and eating 3 solid meals a day people paid him with cash, food, or whatever they had. This wasn't about educated versus uneducated. It was the moment the comforting lie got exposed. Study hard, get good degrees, find a stable job, and no matter what happens to the economy, you'll be fine. But history shows the opposite. Every time the economy collapses, everything flips. Doctors end up driving taxis, engineers wash cars. People with advanced degrees trade cigarettes for potatoes just to survive. And here's the dark paradox almost nobody talks about. The skills that actually help people survive every collapse are not the ones most people are running after. In fact, one of the strongest skills isn't even a regular trade. If you stay until the end of this video, I'll show you the real hidden reason behind all these stories, something very few people ever explain clearly. That December in Buenos Aires, the whole city felt like it was coming apart. The government had just defaulted on over $90 billion in debt. Banks locked everyone's accounts, the famous Corralito, so people couldn't even pull out their own money. The peso lost more than half its value almost overnight. Middle-class families who used to buy a new car every few years suddenly couldn't afford to replace anything. In the middle of all that chaos, one small garage on the edge of the city stayed busy from morning till night. The owner was the same local car mechanic from the story I just told you. Before the crash, he charged a normal rate and worked on newer cars. After the crash, he still charged roughly the same number in pesos. But now, every family needed their old car to last another 10 years instead of 3. Tires, engines, brakes, everything had to keep running because buying new was no longer an option. Demand exploded. People who once looked down on repair work now waited in line with whatever they could bring. Cash, food, even clothing. The mechanic wasn't just fixing cars anymore. He had become the person keeping daily life moving when everything else stopped. This is the first clear pattern you see every time the economy breaks down. When people can no longer afford to throw things away and buy new ones, the person who knows how to repair what's broken suddenly becomes one of the most important roles in the neighborhood. It's not fancy. It's not glamorous. But it never disappears. Look at what actually happened in Argentina during 2001 and 2002. Formal jobs in banks, shops, and offices collapsed. But skilled repair work mechanics, electricians, plumbers held steady or even grew in the informal economy. The same thing showed up in other hard times, Germany in the early 1920s when money became worthless, and Cuba in the 1990s when the Soviet Union fell and everything ran out of fuel and parts. Repair skills don't ride the ups and downs of the economy like most jobs do. They actually do better when things get worse. The more broken stuff piles up, the more people need someone who can make it work again. Even today, the numbers tell the same story. According to the latest government job projections through 2034, heating and cooling technicians are expected to add around 33,000 openings every year, electricians around 80,000. Solar panel installers are growing even faster because more homes and businesses need reliable power they can control themselves. These aren't just trade jobs. They are practical abilities that solve real daily problems: leaky pipes, broken wiring, failing engines, problems that don't go away no matter how bad the news gets. The quiet truth is this. While many comfortable office paths depend on everything running smoothly, repair work steps in precisely when things fall apart. It doesn't need a big company or steady paychecks from somewhere else. It connects directly to what people need to keep living. And that's only the beginning. Because there's another skill even more surprising that quietly made fortunes and kept trade alive when money itself stopped working. Right after the banks in Buenos Aires froze in December 2001, something strange started happening on the street corners. Men stood quietly on the sidewalks of Florida Street, whispering one single word to people walking by: cambio, cambio. They were called arbolitos, little trees, because they stood still like trees waiting for customers. These were ordinary guys with no fancy education. Many had never finished high school. But they knew exactly how to turn one kind of money into another when the official peso was dying. At that time, the government tried to control the price of the US dollar, but on the street, the real price, the blue dollar, was much higher. Sometimes the gap reached 60%. The Arbolitos bought dollars cheap on the black market and sold them at a small profit to people who desperately needed them to protect what little savings they had left. They weren't stealing. They were simply reading the difference between two prices that existed at the same time, the fake official price and the real street price. That small difference became their living. This is one of the oldest and most powerful skills that appears every single time money starts to break. When the normal money stops working properly, a second, hidden money world always appears. One world is the official rules that are slowly dying. The other is the real street rules that people actually use to buy food and pay rent. The people who can move smoothly between these two worlds become extremely valuable. You saw the same pattern in other collapses. In Lebanon, between 2019 and 2023, the local pound lost almost all its value. Banks locked people's accounts for years. But the seraph, the informal money changers, kept working in the shadows. They helped families turn dying pounds into dollars so they could still buy bread and medicine. In Zimbabwe, in 2008 and 2009, the government was printing notes worth hundreds of trillions. Prices changed every single hour. The people who could quickly figure out what a loaf of bread was really worth in US dollars, South African rand, or even a bag of sugar, kept the markets alive. Even in Venezuela over the last 10 years, when the bolivar became almost worthless, many families survived because someone in the neighborhood knew how to move between the official price, the black market dollar, and later, the digital dollar on phones. These people weren't rich speculators sitting in offices. They were the ones who kept daily buying and selling moving when the normal money system had stopped. The hidden reason this skill works so well is simple. When money breaks, the old way of knowing what things are worth disappears. Prices become confusing noise instead of clear signals. Someone still has to decide, how many eggs is this bag of rice really worth today? How many hours of work equals one tank of gas? The person who can read those real prices across different kinds of money becomes the bridge that keeps life going. Most people never learn this skill until they need it. But the ones who understand it early don't just survive, they become quietly essential to everyone around them. And here's what makes it even more interesting. There's another kind of knowledge that can't be destroyed even when money loses all its meaning. Knowledge that lives inside your hands and your memory, not inside any bank account. Moscow suburbs, summer 1992. The Soviet Union had collapsed just 8 months earlier. Store shelves were empty. Prices were rising 600% in a single year. Pensions that once seemed safe had almost no value left. Yet most families did not go hungry. Why? Because 71% of Russian households had a small plot of land called a dacha outside the city, usually just 600 to 1,500 square meters. And more importantly, they still knew how to use it. These small family gardens, using only 3% of the country's farmland, produced 92% of all potatoes, 77% of vegetables, 87% of berries and fruit, 59% of meat, and 49% of milk for the entire nation. Think about that for a moment. Millions of ordinary people, teachers, factory workers, doctors, grew, harvested, preserved, and stored their own food using skills passed down through generations. They knew when to plant, how to save seeds, how to can vegetables without spoiling, and how to keep potatoes through the long Russian winter. This knowledge could not be frozen in a bank account. It could not be made worthless by printing more money, and no one could take it away from them. Here's the important difference most people miss. It wasn't just owning a piece of land that saved these families. Many city people had bought dachas as weekend houses in the 1980s, but had never learned how to actually grow food. When the crisis hit, their land sat empty while their neighbors, with real knowledge, produced enough to feed themselves and even trade with others. The same pattern appeared in Argentina in 2001 and 2002. When the economy crashed, a huge barter network called Truqui appeared. Millions of people started trading goods and services using simple local credits. The ones who did best were not those with university degrees. They were the people who could preserve food, repair clothes, make basic medicine from herbs, or teach others how to do the same. Even today, the global food system is extremely fragile. About 75% of all the calories the world eats come from just 12 plants and 5 animals. Those calories travel through long supply chains across many countries. One big disruption, and shelves can empty fast, as we saw in 2020 and 2021. That's why the simple, old knowledge of growing and preserving food locally has become one of the most valuable but forgotten abilities today. 2 generations ago, almost every family had some of this knowledge. Now it is becoming rare. This knowledge gives you something very special: freedom from depending on distant factories, trucks, and stores for your next meal. It turns your own hands and memory into a quiet form of security that works even when money stops working and shops run dry. And that brings us to the final piece. There is one more ability that becomes extremely valuable when big hospitals, offices, and normal jobs disappear. Havana, Cuba, 1993. The special period had begun. The Soviet Union had just collapsed. Cuba lost 80% of its oil and most of its trade overnight. Everything became scarce fuel, medicine, electricity, even food. Imagine you are a doctor with 7 years of medical training. You have the highest level of education in a field everyone says will always be needed. But now the hospitals have no anesthetics, no antibiotics, and often no electricity. The government even made a rule that doctors were not allowed to work for themselves. So what happened? More than 10,000 Cuban doctors ended up driving taxis just to feed their families. This is the harsh reality that repeats in every collapse. The more your ability depends on big hospitals, steady supplies, or stable offices, the faster it loses value when those things break down. But here is the surprising part. The medical knowledge itself, the real understanding of how the human body works, how to clean wounds, set broken bones, recognize infections, and treat basic illnesses with whatever is available, that knowledge did not disappear. In fact, it became one of the most useful skills in the neighborhood. Doctors who could adapt using simple herbs, clean water, basic sewing for stitches, and careful observation, instead of expensive machines, kept helping people and earned respect and support from their communities. You see the same pattern in other hard times. In Russia, after the Soviet collapse, in Venezuela during its long crisis, and in many conflict zones, the people who knew basic wound care, how to prevent serious infections, and how to spot dangerous health problems without fancy equipment were always in demand. These abilities don't need a big building, constant electricity, or shipments from far away. They work with what is around you right now. When you put all four abilities together, fixing things, reading the real price of money, growing and preserving food, and knowing how to care for basic health, a clear pattern appears. Each one solves a basic daily need without depending on distant factories, big companies, or steady government support. Fixing a broken engine doesn't need a big car factory. Reading the real value of money doesn't need a working bank. Growing potatoes doesn't need long supply chains. Cleaning a wound and preventing infection doesn't need a full hospital. That is why these skills keep working when many comfortable office jobs and expensive degrees suddenly lose their power. The quiet truth is this. Many of the paths we are told to follow depend on everything around us staying smooth and predictable. When that smoothness disappears, those paths can break quickly. But the four abilities we've talked about today connect straight to what people need every single day: food, movement, health, and a way to trade value. They have helped people survive for thousands of years, through every kind of economic storm, on every continent. History didn't teach this lesson clearly in school. But it has shown it again and again in the real world, in the streets of Buenos Aires, the gardens outside Moscow, the corners of Havana, and many other places where normal life suddenly stopped. You started this video looking for skills that can survive tough economic times. The deeper question is, which skills keep working when the usual ways of living break down? The answer has been the same for a very long time. If this video opened something in your mind, hit subscribe. At The Wealth Perception, we do honest economic autopsies so you don't become the next story everyone talks about later. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.